Hello, my fellow movie fans, and welcome to another episode of A Feast of Films Theatre with your hosts, Matthew Ayalew and Ethan R. Hill. How's that? That was good?
Yeah. Classic. Classic. What's going on, my fellow movie fans? Welcome to another episode of A Feast of Films. This is episode 26, part 2. I'm Matthew Ayalew, and with me, as always, is...
Ethan R. Hill.
What's going on, buddy?
How you doing again?
I'm doing good again. I'm doing good.
Matt, have I not seen you for a full week?
For a full week, man. Definitely
Wow,
not
it hasn't been
3
like...
seconds or like no time at all, because we just always stay connected on the video call and do the next episode. That doesn't happen. It's
No, not at all. Like, this is been a 100%. Whole week. It's been 7 days.
Been a week.
It has been, give me a second here. It is
now the 18th.
No, hold on. It's 7 times 24. It has been 168 hours. I think that's right. I don't know. Math is not what I'm strong at.
I don't know. Math is hard. Math is hard.
It may not be a full week for us, but it's been a full week for you guys, and here we are again with more things to talk about.
And we're back. You just can't get rid of us. Unless you don't watch. And you can. It's pretty easy, I guess, to get rid of us. Never mind.
With the way our numbers have been lately, that sounds about right.
That sounds about right. We got rid of the creeps, but apparently that was everybody.
They were the only ones who was listening. We regret nothing.
So this week we got another episode for you. We're gonna try and aim again for that half hour. Last time we didn't do so well, but it was our first shot. This week we're gonna try it again. And this week we're gonna go. We got Ethan having a main topic this week. He's having some issues with a video he had on YouTube.
I'm just confused.
Is it not? He's confused. He's frustrated. So he's just going to rip on that a little bit. We'll chat about that. And then maybe we'll get into what we've been watching lately and some great things that we think you should keep an eye out for. So that's coming up on today's episode of A Feast of Films. All right, Ethan. What do you got for us? What is pissing you off, man? What is grinding your gears?
So this is a long story, and I can't remember if I mentioned it, because I want to say the first part of this happened when we were doing this podcast.
I feel like, and I can't remember if it was during the podcast or just us talking.
It was, because it was back in September, but I don't know if I mentioned it. But back in college, I made a short called Imaginary Friend.
I think you did tell about this on the podcast. But yes, continue on. Sorry.
Basically, what it is like it's this person there's this girl is in a mental institution or hospital setting, and this guy comes in the room and starts talking to her, and it's slowly revealed that she thinks he's her imaginary friend. And at one point, he cuts his arm to show her he's bleeding, and like, hey, look, I'm bleeding, I'm real, that kind of stuff. And, it's very emotional, very high-intense scene. I'm very proud of it. I'm very proud of how it turned out, and I've had it on YouTube. Well, because I was my 4th year of college. So that would have been 2014.
Oh, okay.
I think, or 2015. So it's been up on YouTube. It was on YouTube for 5 or 6 years. And in September, I suddenly got a notice being like, hey, you're violating our guidelines because it has to do with self-harm.
No.
And they took down, they said they reviewed it and they took it down. And I was kind of confused and kind of like not alarmed, but just like really confused as to why
all of a sudden it's getting taken down.
Well, considering again that it's been up there for
5-6 years.
5 or 6 years, and there's been zero.
Guys. Little late.
Exactly. There was like zero problems with it. And there were zero issues surrounding it. So yeah, it was uploaded 4 years ago, and it looks like it's back finally. But yeah, they pulled it, and I appealed it, and they basically, the first appeal, they're like, no, like it violated our guidelines, and no, we are not putting this back up. So then I guess I appealed it a second time, which I don't remember doing. And that's how much, like, basically I kind of resigned myself to the fact of, like, well, they're saying it's violating community guidelines, even though, like technically the guy is harming himself, but it's not self-harm as in the way of like he's actively trying to commit suicide. And like as someone who's struggled with depression and someone who's struggled with that stuff, like in no point in my mind did I ever think like, oh well, him just slicing his arm, that's definitely going to be promoting self-harm.
Yeah.
And that didn't even really cross my mind as being an issue or problematic. But apparently someone did, and someone reported it, as I found out today.
So that's why it got removed, because
It got
somebody reported
someone.
it.
That's what it seems like because so today,
Can I ask you a
6
question
months.
quick?
Yes.
Can I ask you a question
Yes.
just before you go on? When you challenged that the first time and they said, no way, it's out, was that reviewed by a human? Because sometimes they just have like the AI review things and they just say, no, because they have a very obviously basic like idea. But then I think a human does come along eventually and review those types of things.
Well, they didn't specify. They didn't say if it was
It
or
doesn't
not.
say
Same
or
thing
not.
with.
Oh, okay, I was
No,
just curious.
it said that I can appeal it, which I did. And then 3 days later, I got an email back being like, "Well, we reviewed your appeal," which I'd assume if they're reviewing an appeal, that it would have to be a human.
You would think, yeah.
And they're like, "Nope, it hasn't been." So then I guess again, maybe I did, or maybe they just re-reviewed the appeal. But today, I just got an email literally before recording the first half of this that they reviewed it and it didn't violate terms and guidelines.
So
And
someone
so
with a
that's
brain reviewed it.
by the sounds of it. And like, but then I got a follow-up email on that asking me if I'm okay and sending me like, "Do you need help?" Because there are other creators and people on YouTube and us at YouTube who are concerned for your mental health. And like, I appreciate the gesture and I
Yeah.
do think it's not a bad thing. And like, again, I've been there. I have struggled with that. I'm doing good. I'd say for the past year, I've been doing really good. But that to me says that somebody did see it and someone did report it. And I get that to a point, but I struggle with that. I struggle with like again, it's context and knowing whether something is harmful or not. And that's where I'm struggling with this and I'm very confused because a part of me feels like I should be like, "Oh, cool. I won this appeal and my video's back up."
Mm-hmm.
But there's a part of me that's just like, I don't know, scared for the next video to get pulled down or something, right? And it's again because I'm usually very cautious with the material that I put out there and the
Yeah.
stuff that I make. I try to be sensitive to that kind of stuff, and that's where for me it never really crossed my mind that this would be an issue, is to have someone cut their arm and be viewed as like advocating for self-harm,
Mm-hmm.
because that's never been my intent and that was never, I don't know, something that like I'd never would advocate for that. I'm not that kind of person and not that kind of guy to be like, yeah, no, go and hurt yourself, because that's no. Like if you're struggling with that kind of stuff, you need to go and seek help and turn to people who you can rely on and talk to. Like
Right.
that's
Yep. 100%. 100%. Don't just deal with it by yourself.
and that's
Find
and that's
someone.
where like and that's where I think, and maybe I just haven't had enough time to process it either, because again, this happened like maybe an hour ago.
Yeah.
But there's a bit of a bitter taste
You
in my
mean
mouth
last
from it.
week?
Yeah. This happened a week and an hour ago. And that's where it's like it's curious to, like, and that's where I'm wondering, like, even with the YouTube process, like, I understand, especially there are horrendous videos on YouTube that
Yeah.
need to be dealt with. And
Yeah.
like, and there's
They
a part
used to
of
get
me,
linked to our video, and I was like, "What in the Sam hell?"
well, exactly, and there's a part of me that wonders, it's like, but during the review process, should the video just be taken down completely, or should it be like, but then again, it's varying degrees, because yes, there are horrible videos on YouTube. And that's, there's no easy solution to this, and that's where it's like I can be annoyed at what happened and I can be annoyed about the process, but at the end of the
Yeah.
day, with the more you think about it, the more it's like it is for the better, even though there is, in my
Well,
opinion, there's no grounds for my video to get removed. How else is YouTube supposed to deal with this aside from
Well, and that's the thing from like a business point of view and from recovering their butts point of view, it makes total sense. And you kind of have to recognize the history that YouTube's had over the last like 4 years, because they've had content on there where advertisers put their like advertisements on YouTube, right? And those are
Yep.
going in front of videos that are like horrendous or promoting abuse or promoting suicide or promoting some kind of weird, like even there's been like weird things with kids on there, right? That's why there's all these age restrictions
Yep.
on
Why we
YouTube,
have to mark
especially for
whether or not
creator. You have to mark whether is this
it's
for
for kids
kids
or not.
or is this for not. Um, there's been a couple of what's been called adpocalypses where YouTube just went on the spree and shut down so many people's demonetization, and tightened their guidelines and tightened their rules because they were having advertisers pull their advertisements because they had
Yep.
certain videos on their platform from high profile YouTubers. So like that's the thing, right? There's so much shady shit that happens on YouTube that goes under the radar because it's not it's not high profile, right?
Yeah.
And generally no one's looking for it, and they're way down on the algorithm that they never pop up on anyone's kind of feed unless you're the type of people who's watching that. Then it's gonna show up.
And then you'll
Um,
find a feast of films.
exactly. Maybe that also somehow find a piece of films. Maybe not anymore though, because yeah, probably not anymore. We dealt with that kind of issue because it was just very odd and weird. But yeah, from YouTube's perspective, nowadays they act first instead of waiting for something to get called out. If they find something that even remotely, conflicts with their guidelines or what they want on their platform, they remove it first, then it gets reviewed, right? And for a lot of big content creators, that's an issue because the first 24 hours is your biggest amount of where you get the majority of your views, where you get the
Yeah.
majority of your funding comes in. And so many people's videos now are still just constantly demonetized for this reason. Like the algorithm will just pick out one reason or the other, but so it makes the actual business of YouTubers a little bit more complicated, and they've found ways around that nowadays. um but yeah, that's kind of the perspective I think they're coming from too. Like someone reported that, so it's immediately part of their procedure. Like it gets taken down, it gets reviewed. If it's okay, it goes back up. um I know sometimes there is reviews quickly done by the algorithm or machines that kind of give them their initial answer. um, and I think sometimes at that point, then they will also get humans involved to actually see um, what the context of it is, right? Because the AI can't actually see and understand the concept, the context. They just see like whatever the image is, kind of, the idea of it. But you could argue people nowadays also don't just see context. Like someone reported that your channel is way too small to show up on the radar of YouTube, to be monitoring specifically, your content kind of thing from a,
Yeah.
human basis. So it's definitely, likely someone reported it. And again, it just kind of goes to a time where so many people have lost the ability to look and recognize context. They just see something and they think, oh, that's promoting that. And just especially as filmmakers and storytellers, just because it's in a book, in a movie, in a in a TV show, in a play, just because these things that aren't great about humanity are in them, it doesn't mean we're promoting them. It's just part of the story. And oftentimes those are the things that are actually getting trying to either build awareness for it, that are actively using as example to be against that kind of thing. Usually the context is in a more positive light. I don't think there's too many things that are out there that are promoting self-harm, like
Well,
unless
and it's
someone's really sick and making some kind of sick sort of content.
at the
But
risk of shooting myself in the
yeah,
foot here in case someone picks up on this and then reports it. Like, the weirdest part for me is that I have another video that has more views called Clown Killer, and it's about a clown that murders another clown. And
sounds
that's
fun.
zero age restriction. So I just looked at my YouTube channel,
Yeah,
and Imaginary Friend is up with an 18 plus age restriction. So you need to sign on your account in order to see it and be over 18 to watch it.
right.
Which at the end of the day, I guess that's okay. Like, I guess it's a half victory, but like it's okay. But Clown Killer has no restrictions. Anyone can see that.
And that's what I'm saying, right? Like it's so completely like inconsistent, and that's why someone would have had to report it. It's not like YouTube's going through like your 4, 6, 7 videos, 8 videos that you made that are on your channel and personally reviewing them. Like they're just
Yeah,
not. And I don't even think the algorithm goes that deep. Like if your channel's small enough, I don't think the algorithm goes that deep to actually even monitor
I think
all
I
the
have
time what
maybe
you're doing completely. Uh,
12 or
and I
20
think that's
subscribers.
and I think that's why um so many of these like very odd pieces of content make it through the filter because they're so low under the radar that they can kind of get by it.
And that's just it's and that's where like I'm at the end of the day I'm trying not to be frustrated. I'm trying not to really feel much other than like, hey, it's back up, and that's kind of what's important to me is that people can see it. But it is frustrating a bit because again, it's I think, but I guess this is also something I need to get used to as someone who wants to make movies because the rating system is going to be the exact same way.
Yeah, the
There's
rating
going to be
system and people's personal even opinions of your own film too,
my
right?
personal opinions I don't care about at this
Because
point.
like
They can like it or
film
dislike.
is, yeah, it's art, right? And at the end of the day, you just got to make what you got to make what your muse tells you to make.
Oh,
You
exactly. And
just got to follow that and
if
don't worry
people
about what
like
other
it,
people
great.
think. Yeah.
If people don't, then tough bananas. But like
Yeah.
but to me it's the frustrating thing, and I think this is a good life lesson, is it's the rating system. It's the fact that, I might try and make a PG-13 film or a PG film and it might get rated R.
Yeah.
It might get rated things
Well,
that
probably not R, but like, if you're going for PG, I doubt you will hit R.
PG-13.
But maybe PG-13. Like,
Well, but it's
I'm
the
trying to
same
make a
thing of
kids
like,
movie. It's rated R. It's like, what happens? Well, a lot of people just get
well,
chopped up and
a lot of it
crap.
a lot of it depends on who views it. That's the messed up part with the rating system. It depends on who's on the panel at the time.
Yeah.
Um, but it could also be I could be trying to make a rated R movie and they make it NC-17, or they make it where it's like, no, you need to cut everything if you want this to even be a rated R. Not that I don't think I'd like me as a filmmaker and a person, I don't think I'd ever be there.
Yeah,
But
you'd have to
like,
go pretty far to like get beyond R.
well, exactly, and it's one of those things of like,
Yeah.
it is something though I think it's a valuable lesson to learn is that
That was like that
sometimes
sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
sometimes the things that you make are going to be they're going to have certain restrictions put on them.
Yeah.
And that's just life. As bad as that sounds, that's just how it is.
Well, yeah,
And it's just how you
especially if you're talking public consumption, right? Like, if you just want to make it for yourself, you do your thing, whatever. Show it to who you want to show it to, whatever. As soon as you put things out in the public, though, there's definitely things that need to be out there, and it's just, it's not even like restrictions so much, but it is ways to communicate to the viewer so they can make an educated decision, especially when it
yeah,
comes to children, right? Like, is this something I should take my kid to or not?
100%.
And that's really the purpose of it. So it's yeah.
And that's
One film that was like really messed up. I can't remember if it was R or Beyond R, but I don't even think it made it in theaters. And it was that Eli Roth movie Green Inferno. Have you ever
oh
seen that?
yeah, yeah. The only reason that got the hype and the quote unquote
It
clout
wasn't
that it did,
scary, but it was very
it was.
graphic.
But honestly, like it's like so this is terrible. This is gonna sound awful. I've seen Cannibal Holocaust, which is
Well,
like
that's kind
the
of what it's
worst
based
film
off
ever.
of,
It's
right?
100. The thing is, it's a weaker version of what that film was,
Yeah.
and like, not. I'm not saying Cannibal Holocaust was a good film because it was not. Like, do not waste your time to watch it. I'm annoyed that I did, but at the same time, I'm glad that I did because I've opinion on it. Right, I have a formulated opinion,
Yeah.
and at the end of the day, it's really overhyped for what it is. If I ever meet someone who says their favorite film is Cannibal Holocaust, I'm just
Yeah,
walking away.
I don't think anyone's
Like,
gonna favorite film. Like, and
I
Green Inferno it wasn't a terrible film, but like, damn, it's
it
graphic. And if you
was
let yourself get in there, you're like, you put yourself on that table, dude. You know what table I'm talking
well, and
about.
like
And it's like, damn, that would suck. Like,
the problem for me with
horrendous.
the problem for me with graphicness in movies, and I'll fully admit this, and I think I've mentioned this before, is it's not so much that I'm desensitized, but if I'm watching a movie, I immediately know what's
You
happening
know
there
the
is a
special
special
effects,
effect.
yeah.
And like I've studied and put a lot of time and energy into recreating those special effects. So for me, when I see something graphic like that, it's like, oh, those body parts are just liquid latex and foam rubber.
Yeah.
I know what it is. Like, and I know it's like, oh, that's not someone's body part. It's like, oh, that's a recreation of a body part. Oh,
Well,
that
yeah,
blood, that's corn.
yeah.
That's corn syrup and food coloring, and
Once you
that's
see behind the curtain, but most people don't, right?
I
Like,
know,
and that's the
and
thing.
that's where like I am not the judge of character for that kind of thing. When other people are like, it's so disturbing, and I'm like, well, it's cool.
Ethan,
It's
you
kind of
probably
cool they
shouldn't
pulled
be on
that
the
off.
rating board.
No, like,
Ethan's
because
like, I
like,
think this is PG for corn syrup and fake latex arms.
well, like, well, that's the thing is like, oh no, this is just impressive. Oh, like one of the most impressive special effects, and it took me a while to actually figure out what happened and how they did it was actually in the movie Excalibur.
Mm-hmm.
Is Lancelot is naked and he's stabbed all the way through with a sword,
Yeah.
and he pulls it out on camera. And I'm like, how? This movie's from like the 70s. How do they pull that off? And eventually I figured it out, I think, where like where it's like a retractable blade, and then he just, the way he moved, the blade that was attached to his back hid. Like, it was weird, but it was weird, and I had spent a good 20 minutes trying to figure that out. And that's what I love to do with special effects.
Yeah.
I
Try
love
and break
trying
him
to
down.
like I love trying to figure out like, okay, how do they do that? And for like, so for body parts or things like that, I know how they do that. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, okay. Now if they're showing it all in one go, like one of the most disturbing ones but so fascinating was Dawn of the Dead. One of the soldiers gets like knocked to the ground and like ripped apart. His legs are ripped off. Guts, he's eaten alive, and it's amazing. And I was like, how do they do that? And then, sure enough, I found out really easy because I got a documentary on it where it was just like, oh, he was built into the floor and he was just leaning on this thing, and
Yeah.
they had fake legs and stuff. Like, it's, and that stuff, that's cool to me. Like, yeah, it's really graphic, but it's really cool because it's this mystery, and that's, I guess that's, and YouTube has changed so much from when we were kids. It's changed a lot.
Oh,
But
kids, man. YouTube wasn't even a thing when we were kids, but like, yes, from like,
when did you, were we teenagers? Were we?
dude, we were in high school, man.
Okay. So but like
Like
YouTube was so
YouTube,
different
what was
because
2007, 2007, 2008, something like that.
possibly.
I'm gonna
But
Google
like
this. When did YouTube show up?
when
And then it
like
wasn't even close to popular for so like a long time either.
I watched a lot of the horror movies, the random obscure horror movies on YouTube. There was no age restriction or anything like that. I just
No, there wasn't. No.
I got to watch them because they were on there on 10 parts in video yeah, VHS quality footage, right?
Yeah.
And they were graphic and all that stuff, and but I was never, as a teenager, I was never like horrified. I was just like, oh cool, how did they do that special effect?
Yeah.
And I guess, and that's where I have to consistently remind myself that the way I view things is very different than the way a lot of other people view things. I don't see things through the lens of
The actual like person being ripped apart,
just,
like
yeah,
you know,
I look at it
but
like
but
that's
my main point with that was like that's kind of the stuff that's gonna get you out of the theaters. That's the stuff that's gonna push you kind of beyond that R rating. Is very visual violent, like very
well,
very graphic violence.
with that one specifically,
Most
they
of
were
the stuff
trying.
nowadays is fine.
I want to say the story with that is they were trying to get that label because they wanted to live up to the Cannibal Holocaust.
Well, for
name,
sure,
right?
yeah, yeah,
And like, and I always find that weird. I'm like, why would you want? I mean, like, it's weird, but it makes sense that you want to get that notoriety. Because as
right.
weird as it's gonna sound, as soon as your film is rated unwatchable, it'll be one of the most watched films out there. Right? Like as soon as it's like, no, like the censors say no, it's too graphic or too violent, you're gonna have people going to see this movie that's like we talked about that with Damned Rights didn't get into any festivals, right?
Yep.
So we talked about marketing it that way, where it's like the one film no festival would screen.
That's funny.
And it's true. It's true.
You're not
Just,
wrong. You're just implying maybe something else.
we're not specifying why they didn't screen it, just that they didn't.
You didn't screen it because you just didn't screen it. Okay, don't ask questions. Just accept the fact. It's
But
just
there would be a
fact.
lot of people who would see that and immediately go like, well, I gotta watch this movie now. Holy
Yeah.
crap. What? Why didn't the festival want this movie? Right? So like that's a marketing ploy. That's a thing that happens. But no, that's kind of the ups and downs of what's going on with it. again, I guess I'm still processing it to figure out how I feel about this.
Yeah.
It's good to have it back, and I'm okay that it's behind a wall. It kind of sucks, but I guess
Okay.
I'm just confused.
Yeah, no, for sure, buddy. Like, yeah, it's one of those things. Like, and again, someone would have had to report it because YouTube, I don't think would have just picked it out of its own. Especially if you have Clown Killer on there, they're clearly not worried about that.
One has more views. Like it has.
Exactly right, but yeah, like they have channels that have like millions upon millions of subscribers, right? They have so many channels that are that high. Like they're not going to my channel or your channel with like double digit subscribers and like digging through our stuff, right? They're gonna go with whatever is getting the most publicity and whatnot. But yeah, no, YouTube's a very different beast since it started. So it was founded in 2005, so we are like 14. But like, it was nowhere near getting to popularity till a little bit beyond that. Like we're for surely in high school when it really started to
It
kind
was
of
by the time
pick
I
up.
met you guys. By the time I knew you guys, YouTube was a thing. So that would have been 2007, 2008.
Yeah, yeah, like
But like,
by high school, but like it still wasn't anywhere near what it is today when there's like tons and tons and tons and everyone's jumping on YouTube, right? Back then, it wasn't even as accessible to be a YouTuber. You know what I mean? Like have the actual tech and stuff. Like so much of it's now even you can be a YouTuber just from your phone. You
yeah.
can use your phone
Whereas
exclusively and be a YouTuber if you want,
my brief stint of trying to be a YouTuber, I think I had to film my videos on my HD camera,
Yeah.
edit them, and then upload them. And like it was very step by step by step by step. As
Yeah,
opposed to
it
like,
was
I'm just gonna go live. Oh, look, YouTube live. Yeah.
it was a very, very different beast. But yeah, and now they have their different policies and their rules. And the thing is, it's like if you want to play their game, it's their platform, right? We gotta
It's
play
like
by how they want to play it. But yeah, whoever
I was
reported you,
about
it's
to.
kind of like I think whoever reported you is kind of the more has the questionable judgment of what they were
Well,
actually watching.
that's the weird thing about it. That's where it's kind of. I'm curious. I'll never know who reported it. I never will. I'm curious though. I want to know the motivation why. I want to know. But that's me. I'm a mystery solver kind of person. I want to
Yeah,
know the
kind of dig
answers.
into this.
It's like who did this? Who are you and what do you want from me? Ah.
You coming after my college video? What's wrong with you?
My harmless college video that is now apparently extremely harmful.
Apparently. Apparently.
Like, and it's again, it's a quick, like, it's a 2 second, it's maybe 2 to 3 seconds of a shot
Yeah.
that got it pulled down, and that's crazy to me. That's bizarre. Although, fun fact, that's actually, um, in Jaws. There's a shot of a leg floating to the bottom of the ocean,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a rated R movie, and they cut like I think 3 frames off of that leg floating,
Yeah.
and it got a PG.
Well, it's a win.
Yeah, it was a pre PG-13, but like
Yeah, sometimes
yeah,
the
like
rating board's
immediately
very yeah, sometimes it's
immediately
literally
just dropped.
seconds, right? Yeah.
But like, yeah, I don't know. It's weird, but it's a life lesson, and you just got to deal. Roll with the punches.
Yep. You betcha, buddy.
I'm not gonna lose sleep over it.
I
Watch this.
wouldn't. Yeah.
I'm gonna have nightmares exclusively about YouTube now.
YouTube. Why? Why?
Why are you dreaming about YouTube? No, not YouTube. YouTube.
Yeah.
Ah.
No doubt. No doubt. No doubt. Cool, man. Cool. Well, I'm glad that kind of worked out. At least the video was able to come back up. That's a win. That's just a win in itself.
I mean, I like to think so, but who knows?
Who really, really knows? Yeah, man. I'm glad that worked out for you. Life lessons and all. Growing is fun. Life is fun. Speaking of fun, let's talk about our question of the day. And we're just going to go very simple, basic, because it's a topic we just wanted to talk about. But we're also going to put in some effort to keep our video at that roughly half an hour mark and not go into that almost an hour mark. So, question of the day. What have you been watching this week? What's really been sticking out to you? What have you been enjoying? Go, Ethan.
Well, because obviously WandaVision. I finished Boy Meets World,
Mm-hmm.
which it ended when it needed to end, and I was glad that it ended. Um, I find I like the earlier seasons as opposed to the later ones,
Right.
because eventually it goes from being like it's an interesting show to watch when you think about the audience that was that was watching it at the time,
Mm-hmm.
because it was literally growing with the audience. And so around the time that the main audience who's watching it when they were kids got to the point where they were teenagers with the main characters, the show became more soap opera-y,
Right.
more dramatic. But guess what? That's what teenagers want to watch, right? And then like it's weird because you kind of like if you think about it in the context of you growing up, the way the show is framed is the way you were framed. Like the way you grew up. It's weird. It's
Well,
super
your
weird.
interests were in parallel with the show as it went.
It was a so it was a very interesting rewatch because I kind of noticed that this time. I started Dexter.
Oh, yeah, I haven't even watched that
And
yet.
honestly, dude, I started Dexter maybe less than a week ago. I'm already on season 2.
Okay.
First night I turned it on, watched 4 episodes, and they're hour-long episodes, and I
Yeah.
watched 4 episodes in one night.
Nice.
Um, Honestly, it is really, really, really well done, and it lives up to the hype. Like, I get why people talked about it so much. Like, and it's a show that, to me, is ahead of its time when it came out, because there's weird and bizarre cinematography. They make the main protagonist, who you shouldn't like, very likable.
Mm-hmm.
There's narration, which hardly ever works. A voiceover in this show works perfectly. All the characters are enjoyable, to a point or another. It's a good mystery. Like, it's just, honestly, I'm really digging it. And, like, I kind of know what happens. I kind of know what goes on throughout. But there's enough I don't know about it that I'm also really engaged.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of my next finishing one. I also watched a punk documentary, which was fascinating and more enlightening. That I've kind of realized that punk and metalheads are basically the same people. They wear different clothing, and they're gonna get mad at me for saying it. As someone I have grown up a metalhead. I've grown up listening to metal my entire young adult life,
Yeah.
and then recently I've been doing deep dives into punk and learning more and more about punk. And I just like it all. I like it all, and I'm realizing it's funny because most of the punks I talk to, they're like, I've had terrible experiences with metalheads. They're all jerks. And any metalheads I talk to, they say the exact same thing about the punks. They're like, they're all terrible people. Ah. And like, I look at them both, and I'm like, you guys know you all just like rock, right? You guys all just like distorted guitars and like rock. You like the same thing. You're just wearing denim and leather, and it swishes between who's wearing what. But it's like they have more in common than they'd like to admit. But there's such a deep-seated rivalry between the two of them that they just don't want to.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hilarious. Like, in both a punk documentary and a different documentary about metal, they both take a very long time to talk about Nirvana and how punk and or metal is responsible
For
for
Nirvana.
Nirvana. And I think it's the funniest thing. It's like if Elvis made a documentary and was talking about how he was responsible for the Beatles. Like like probably, but like do you need to add that in your documentary about you? And like the answer is no. Like no. Like, you don't need to talk you don't need to talk.
Let me break this down for you guys. The answer is no.
The only thing that is responsible for Nirvana is Seattle. That is it. Like that is that grunge scene, that entire thing. Blame Seattle for that, because that's such a regional, stuck to them music.
Yeah.
And like it makes me laugh and also cringe at how much anyone wants to take credit for that. And it's like, guys, no. It's fine. They like because they've cited both. They've like the guys from Nirvana have cited liking punk and liking metal. They've said that, and it's like, okay, so they like both, and they made their own music with distorted guitars. You guys like rock. You like rock. You like rock. That's what it is.
That's funny.
But it was still fascinating, and it was educational. And
Yeah.
I love those documentaries. I love like hip hop evolution is like completely different genre of music, but like fascinating, really good reflective series on the evolution of hip hop, as the title says.
Yeah.
But anything like that, like I love the history of music. I love learning more about music. Honestly, I'm always on the hunt for new tunage as well, which has been honestly where I put a lot of my effort into lately. Um, More so than watching movies, I've been listening to a lot more music lately.
Yeah, nothing
Um,
wrong with that either.
and also
I'm a fan of
audiobook
music.
wise, I've wanted to watch American Gods for a while,
Okay.
and I haven't watched the show yet, but I started reading the book.
Okay.
And I know it's different enough that I could probably just hop into the show at any point now, but I also really want to finish the book first.
Is it a good book?
I'm enjoying it. Apparently, a lot of people don't like it because it's kind of meandering, like they kind of just wander.
Oh,
But
okay.
I think it's fun. I think it's a fun journey. I like the characters well enough, so I'm enjoying it.
Cool.
How about you, Matt? What have you been up to?
So obviously, just like you, we finished WandaVision. We talked about that last week. Um, so no need to talk about it anymore other than just, we liked it. It was good. Great series. Fun way to kick it off. Also that week, so it was like my week because like the shows my wife and I were watching together were Vikings and WandaVision. One was on Wednesday, one was on Friday. Both their seasons ended the same week, so now I have no shows to watch right now, which is well just with her, I guess. But yeah, finished up Vikings the final season. Pretty weak ending, but it was a pretty weak ending to the season. Um, actually would say like the last. I know I complained about this. I think it was last week or the week before that.
Yeah,
Um, but the second last episode of Vikings was had a really great ending to it, and kind of interesting story. The actual finale wasn't too bad. Um, there were some things that there's some characters that lived that I wish would have died. There's some characters that died that I wish kind of would have lived. There was some weird kind of just choices made to wrap this whole thing up. But it definitely ended weaker of a series than it started, which I think happens to a lot of series, right? They
yeah,
tend to end weaker than when they began. But this one was definitely noticeable. But they did kind of have like a really nice um, ending scene. Um, and like one character who comes back, who's kind of like he's like this character who's been around since the beginning. He's the only one left, and I thought he was dead the whole damn time. But then he came back, and I was like, oh my god, he's back! And he was awesome to see. But I think I told you, I can't remember if I talked about this on the podcast or not, but like Ubo was like on that boat for like 5 episodes, just like floating in the ocean forever and a day. Then
yeah,
finally got to America in the last like 3 episodes, and like things have been so interesting there and like what they've been doing. I'm like, why didn't we get to this 4 episodes earlier? Why? Why? Because honestly, I would watch another season of just Uba and his group in America, and who's also along with this other character because the dynamic between them was great. And well, I guess I don't know. Anyone on here watch Vikings? I'm gonna spoil it for you if you haven't seen it. Floki came back. Floki's back, and you thought maybe he died in like I can't remember if it was the season before or whatever, but he came back and now he's kind of like old man Floki, and he just says like old man shit that's so damn funny that I'm like I was telling my wife I'm like honestly it's good that this series ended because it was kind of going nowhere for like the last season, but I would have watched another season of just Uba, his family, his group of Vikings, and Old Man Floki in America. Like that was so interesting how they dealt with it, and then there was like the Native Americans and stuff were there, and they were trying to like and see if they could build a relationship there between the two cultures and groups. Like it just would have been such something new, something fresh, something interesting to bring into the series. But nah, they're like, let's just save it for the last 3 episodes of ever. That's a great place to put it. I'm like you damn morons, because you had gold there,
you fools.
you fools, you had gold, you didn't use it. Um, and then Ivar, his brother, went back to England and kind of fought with King Alfred, and it was just very, I don't know, it was anticlimactic. It wasn't that interesting. Like, it had moments where it was like pretty cool, and you're like kind of remind you of the earlier episodes in the series, but it kind of ultimately just I don't know.
It was a resounding meh.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the main problem here was, especially with this season, because the last two episodes were quite good. They just left them to the last two episodes, and they meandered for the middle five, doing nothing. There was like five episodes right in the middle where it's like just nothing. Like they meandered so much when you had like this gold storytelling potential, and it's like, why didn't you just get to it earlier? Because you could have expanded these things, you could have made them better, but instead you expanded all these like really boring elements that were just people talking. They had one point to make in a scene that could have taken 10 seconds to like, this needs to be a 5 minute scene, and the whole scene of it was just the one point. So um it was good, and I think it had potential in the future, which kind of made me sad that it was ending. But also, if they just would have kept going the way they were going, I wouldn't want to see it anyway, I guess. But
No,
I don't know.
100%, man.
It had potential, but I don't think they would have tapped on that potential. But anyway, that ended, and then I started watching Superstore, which is one I've just been watching by myself and on Netflix. And my wife had been watching it earlier when it was like airing live, and I didn't watch it with her. And now wishing I did, because it's very funny. It is a very funny show. I would highly recommend this. Um, just a great cast of characters and how they all interact with each other. It's very, very spot on when it comes to working retail. If you've ever worked retail, and
Oh
they're
yeah.
like in between scenes where they're going from one to another, the transitions, they have customers just doing like customer stuff, but it's always like the weirdest shit. And most people be like, "Wow, that probably doesn't happen." You're like, "No, that shit that happens all the time. People are super weird,
Oh
super
yeah.
weird." So, and it's just like a yeah. At the end of the day, it's a really fun story going on. The dynamics between the characters are really fun. Constant conflict, constant bickering, but like so many laughs and just the most ridiculous situations they get up to. This one last episode I was watching the other night was this one guy. He's an illegal immigrant kind of thing. He didn't know he was illegal, but he is, because he was like brought over with as a child or whatever, right? And never got proper documentation. So he wants to leave the country to go to like, I think it was like his cousin's or someone's funeral. And their plan was to like use the passport of a dead guy they found in the wall. Okay, this is what so they found his passport, and then the one chick's like, I can do your makeup, because she's working on movie makeup and stuff, special effects. So she makes him look like this guy, like it's very close, and it's super creepy. And this guy in real life, like at the beginning of the series, was this super weird, creepy guy. So throughout this episode, it's like he starts turning into like that creepy old guy, like just acting out of character. Till eventually he takes off the makeup. He's like, it's not worth it. He's not worth it. Take it off. And the one example was like the chick was like, you know how you like if you dress as a skank, the chick she acts like a skank, but if you dress someone up in like a dress, they act like royalty. Like how you dress and how you look is kind of reflective of how you act when you're in that outfit. She's like, what if having a creep face is making you turn into a creep? And he was like smelling people's feet and like licking things. Like it was very like it was a very funny episode, but it's just like the ridiculous shenanigans they get up to. So much fun. So yeah, I would highly recommend that
It's been on
Superstore.
my list for a while.
Lots of fun. The other week I watched a couple movies too, on Amazon. I watched that Greenland, which was pretty good, with Gerard Butler. He was in that. There was like a middle point. There was a couple decisions. I can't remember if I talked about this on the podcast or just with you, but there's a couple decisions they made like kind of in the middle where it's like, wow, that could have been easily resolved if you made a different opinion or choice. But okay, I guess that's what you needed to, make what happened in the movie happen. But anyway, not a bad film. Wasn't terrible. Then I watched Slither the other day too. James Gunn's.
First time watching it,
Yeah, yeah,
really good, right?
yeah. It's so good, and it was just lots of fun.
Nathan
Lots
Fillion's
of fun.
delightful.
Nathan Fillion was like, the casting there was money. The casting that whole thing was money, and so that's a really great film. You should check that out. You should check it out
You
because
want to see Michael Rooker be scary?
well, yeah, exactly, right? And it's such a basic concept, basic idea. It's not a very long film. Like I think it was just over was it just over an hour? Something
I
like that.
think so.
Look at the runtime. It's not very long, but it's just such a well-told and focused story. Um and just yeah, it was fun. Like it was a lot of fun. But yeah, that's kind of what I've been watching recently. What have you guys been getting up to? Let us know down in the comment section below. TV shows, movies, what should we be watching? What should we be looking out for? Let us know. And with that, that's where we're gonna wrap up today's episode. Probably went over more again than what we were planning on it, but hey,
It could be
yeah,
worse.
we're getting better. We're probably getting better. This is probably a little less than last time.
Exactly.
But yeah, with that, we will see you guys next week for another episode of Feast of Films. And yeah, it should be a good time. Ethan, where can the good people find you?
The people can find me at Ethan R. Hill on Instagram. You can also find me at Ethan R. Hill on YouTube. You can find my film Damned Rights on realhouse.org. Just search up Damned Rights. You can find me there. Give it a rental, give it a purchase, give me some money. Yeah, and also I think I'm also going to link the Imaginary Friend video down below for people to go and check out. Since it's back up and running, give it some more views.
Report it.
Please don't. I've been through this again.
Report it.
Don't report my other videos, please.
Oh, man.
Hey, Matt, where can they find you so they can report your stuff?
Yeah, you go report my stuff. It's definitely reportable, I'm sure. You can find me on YouTube, channel called Storytellers for Life. Head on down there. If you're a storyteller, you want to learn, grow, and develop, learn different storytelling skills, find some inspiration, motivation. I actually just did an interview last week with a soon to be author or a brand new author. Soon, the book is soon coming out shortly. But yeah, I did an interview with her. That's gonna be coming up pretty soon, and she has a really interesting story and just a classic reminder of that life lesson that just because you take a loss, especially as a storyteller, and get rejection and get defeated, doesn't mean it's the end of your story. You can still win. So she had
What?
a really great story.
You mean my story's not over?
No, the story is not over yet, man. Just because your video got reported and taken down didn't mean the story was over, Ethan. It's kind of like that. Slightly different, though. But anyway, that's going to be coming up pretty soon, too, and I'm excited about that. It was a great interview. She is
I'm
awesome.
excited to watch it.
So you'll have to come by and see it. So head over to the YouTube channel, Storytellers for Life. Also, you can find me on Twitch, Storytellers for Life Live, where we play and discuss gaming's greatest stories. And just come hang out. It'll be fun. It usually is, for me. This one time I was
no one else.
Usually by the time, well, yeah, because it's Twitch, so you kind of hang out by yourself a lot of the time, and so I'm just getting really used to talking to myself, right? Like that's part of the skill. You just gotta get used to that. And then one time, one cat showed up, and he was like, "What's up?" And I was like, because I was so used to just talking to myself. When someone actually showed up, I was just like, I totally froze. I totally froze.
Goodbye, everybody.
And I don't know what is up. What am I playing right now? I just jumped off a roof. Oh my god, so that was fun. I'm playing Mafia right now too. It's a great game. Awesome. Awesome.
Just another thing I did this week. I started Spider-Man Miles Morales.
Oh yes, so good. So good.
I'd say it's so far. I'm digging it.
Yeah,
I'm
the
digging it so
ending,
far.
man. I'm telling you though, the ending is like I'm not trying to hype it up too much, but it's got a really solid. It's got some really great moments in the end.
I had some stuff spoiled to me plot wise. I don't know how they get there, but I had some things about the ending spoiled for me.
Yeah, it's not too terribly spoilery though. Whatever it was, like the real impact comes from like a lot of the emotion and stuff like that. But you'll get there. You'll get there.
Oh yeah, dude. As long as it's hyping me up for the next Spider-Man game, I'm fine.
Exactly. Anyway, that's it. We will see you guys next week. This has been a Feast of Films, episode 26, part 2. I'm Matthew Ayalew.
I'm Ethan R. Hill.
And we will see you guys next week. Bye-bye.
So long.
Toodaloo.
Peace.
There we go.
Peace.
Hey.